For more, I'm joined now by Robin Wright, a distinguished scholar at the US Institute of Peace. Robin, thanks so much for coming in. Matthew Price there saying that there doesn't seem to be a decision coming out of Europe. There doesn't seem either to be very much of a decision coming out between Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, and US Secretary of State John Kerry. I mean, does the world know what it wants to do about Syria?
There's a huge division in Europe and the United States about who you might provide weapons to, what type of weapons, non-lethal, lethal, anti-aircraft, how far do you go? And then how do you control them? How do you ensure that the deadliest weapons are not acquired, bought, borrowed, stolen by extremist groups that are also operating against the Assad regime? And there are just some real problems on those basic questions.
Those are the questions that have been raised here in Washington, and of course in Europe as well, for months now. We've had a series of meetings today. How urgent is it, given what is happening on the ground in Syria at the moment, with Hezbollah fighters now fighting on the Syrian government side, that some sort of agreement is met?
The problem is the morality versus the reality. And the morality is that even one death is too many deaths. And the world, I think, is anguished about what's happening. The problem is that, unlike Libya, there are huge divisions inside Syria among the opposition groups. Some are outside, some are inside, but they don't operate as one. They haven't even agreed publicly on who should be part of a shadow government as an alternative to the Assad regime. Then you have the fact that the Arabs themselves are not divided over what to do. Unlike Libya, where they spoke with one voice, there are rival factions inside the country supported by different countries, whether it's with aid or arms.
But what's going to break that deadlock? Because it's the same arguments we've been hearing for a year or more now over Syria.
I think we're seeing the beginning of a shift in the mood in Washington and in Europe, that this question of how many is too many and the morality of it shifting in favor, at least among the politicians, if not among the public. I think in the United States there's still deep skepticism about arming the rebels. And might the United States then end up having to help recreate Syria in the aftermath of any change? But the bigger problem, too, is also this has become a proxy war between the West and on one side, and then you have Iran, Russia, and China on another. And this is no longer just about who rules in Damascus. This is about who has control of the most strategic property in the Middle East.
Of course, that's something that other Arab nations are very concerned about. You've just come back from Qatar yourself. The Qataris have been arming the Syrian rebels. I mean, how concerned are they that things may be shifting actually now with Hezbollah fighters in Syria back towards the Assad regime, towards the Shia part of this Sunni-Shia split?
Well, that's another problem. There's another war that's playing out in Syria, too, and that's the sectarian war between the Shiite minority and the Sunni majority. The Shiite majority, or an offshoot called the Alawites, have been in power now for 40 years, and there's a sense that the rivalry is playing out in Syria that will affect then the fate of the Shiite-Sunni divide across the Middle East. And the Qataris, who are Sunni and supporting one of the Sunni factions inside Syria, have reportedly paid about $3 billion to help the rebels. And the Prime Minister, when I was there, said $10 billion was not too much, that this was something that there's an open-ended commitment to. And so this is a conflict that may not turn anytime soon. This is one that may anguish us all for a very long time with no obvious solution, particularly over peace talks.
Okay, and of course, not, as you say, just about Syria anymore. There are all these other countries as well getting involved who have a vested interest. Robin Wright, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.